look at someone and wonder what is going on inside their head.
Yeah, I feel that way.
She was cute.
Yeah, very cute. We found that, where did we find that? On Twitter?
No, actually, probably just like TikTok or Facebook,
yeah,
or something.
Okay. Yeah.
So welcome to Bookmark. This
Yeah.
is our weekly podcast. We do this once a week, where we spend about an hour talking about the previous week's events, or talk about current events.
Mm-hmm.
We hope that you have had a chance to take a look at our latest video essay that we did, our latest documentary called Lifelong Learning.
Mm-hmm.
If you haven't, please check it out. Now that school is upon us, I think it's important that we know exactly what is involved with school districts and the curriculum and what's really happening to the kids. What do you think?
Well, I think so too, and we can get into that in a minute. But first I wanted to thank all our patrons to make that possible. And here they are now.
All of our patrons and supporters and donors.
Yeah.
Thank
Okay.
you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for
and,
that.
So we heard about some things going on in California, where we're from. There's been some fires and power outages, and the fires are very serious, apparently. We were looking at the website of a place that we used to stop at when we were driving, called Pie Ranch in Northern California, outside of Santa Cruz, and they got hit pretty hard, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
You were looking at their website?
I was looking at their Facebook page.
Oh, their Facebook page.
So check out Nancy Vale.
Mm-hmm.
She's one of the owners, I guess, of Pie Ranch. Check her out, and you can see, some of the damage, and you can, read about what it is that they're looking for. Apparently, the fires were started by 11,000 lightning storms in a span of 72 hours.
Yeah, lightning strikes.
That sounds really natural.
Yeah. So if you're not from California, that is really hinky. Because
not normal.
It's not normal, especially this time of year. Anytime there's a thunder or lightning storm, it's generally in the wintertime, December, January. That's when we have our rain season there. And I was looking at the weather in the past week when these things were happening. And like in Pennsylvania, you get what's known as heat lightning. But that's from other types of meteorological types of phenomenon, like high humidity, high heat indexes. And there was high heat in California, but the humidity was way down, especially on the hottest day. So we're really questioning that. Also, the whole thing with the power outages.
The rolling power outages.
Right, and to the point. Okay, so California is like just behind the UK in its economy. It's like the 5th or 6th largest economy in the world. California by itself. And so in other words, California has more money than most countries. Right. So for them to have these sort of third world electrical grid problems and power outage problems is that's beyond the pale. That's weird. Really hinky. We're really wondering about that. I don't believe it, especially because our own credit union had a little notification bar at the top of its page this morning saying more closures temporary closures for more of our locations because of the power outages. And last week it said
because of COVID.
Exactly, it said the same message except for COVID-19, right? So we're questioning the reasons for these location closures as well as these power outages, and furthermore these so-called lightning strikes. There are other ways to cause damage like that that we're not going to go into right now, but you can look into.
Well, everybody's talking about the California fires, so we don't need to, and we don't live there anymore. So.
We don't need to talk about it. We just wanted to mention it, that it's going on, and just how hinky that is.
Right. I think the most important takeaway, and my takeaway is what you just said, is that California, which is one state out of all 50 states in the United States, has more money than some countries, and yet it's being treated like a third world country with rolling blackouts and all this stuff, and there's no money, and it's like, so, you know, that's the part of it that seemed really odd to us.
I agree.
You know, more so than the fire itself, because there's been weird anomalous fires happening over the last few years in California. Fires that don't make any sense whatsoever.
Right.
Inside of trees burning, exploding porcelain, you know, kitchens and bathrooms.
Very, very hot fires. Yeah.
Very hot fires that don't make any sense. That are not the kind of California fires that we're used to.
Or happening at times of the year when it's not fire season.
When it's not fire
now,
season.
It is fire season now, and these look more like regular, you know, fires that we have in California. They have in California. But it's the whole lightning thing is bullshit.
Yeah, I was just going to say, the lightning storm is really weird. Yeah. So anyway, lots of people are speculating about that.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so, okay.
Well, let's talk about us.
Yeah, instead of California, because we left that state behind, and we're now working in another state and another city, and we are producing a series called The New Model. And we've been working on this since, what would you say,
March,
April? Yeah, we started the series after our big video called Quarantyranny that did come out in, I believe, in like late March, early April. We started the New Model series, and I don't know what prompted us to do it other than, you know, the COVID thing. I guess we wanted to cover a bunch of subjects in that area, especially after looking at the new, the new platform on the World Economic Forum's website.
Exactly.
We felt like, okay, this really defines what's going on, and this deserves attention in a series of videos that are all connected. And so the concept that's connecting all of these videos is the Fourth Industrial Revolution.
Right.
And
I would say that, you know, the New Model series is probably a really good way to help you get away from the obsessive narrative regarding, you know, the disease, and how the disease doesn't seem to qualify the lockdowns and the closures and the economies and the draconian measures that we're all facing.
Right.
It gets you away from the disease, or gets you away from the infection, and gets you more into like what's really going on.
Right, exactly.
You know, like the takeover of, you know, of our world by the central banks, by, you know, the fact that your governments have been occupied. You're now living in occupied territory. You're being regime changed.
Right.
There's, you know, this overreach of data mining and surveillance capitalism, and, you know, turning
and biocapitalism
and turning us into this, you know, digital landscape where we're all just kind of, you know, being turned into slaves. That's the real story.
Yeah.
If you want to believe that by putting on a mask you're going to make a infection that's not really an infection go away, then by all means, maybe we're not for you. But honestly, I think a lot of people are starting to get a little tired of this nonsense.
And we talk about the masking in our videos in regard to not the infection, not this, you know, supposed thing out there. What we do talk about, though, is, you know, other reasons that are, and, you know, we're not really speculating. I mean, we're looking at this.
No, this is happening.
You know, we're looking at this as it is, and not, you know. And here's something else that we really are getting tired of seeing out there, is all this talk about Luciferians and you know, devil worshipping communists that are out there, which is like, that's an anomaly right there. But you know, people are talking about the communist takeover and the Luciferian baby eaters. You know,
you wish, because wait, no, is it Luciferians or Satanists that don't believe in corporal punishment?
Right. It's the Satanists.
Satanists actually don't believe in hitting children,
right,
for punishment.
Whereas you know, I'm sorry, but there's a lot of Christians that do. That aside, we don't talk about that.
That's not what this is about. I mean, this is about trillions of dollars being invested into the fourth industrial revolution, which is a brand new way of living. It's a brand new way of existing, and it's a brand new way to cull and depopulate the planet. I mean, that's just really the goal. The goal is depopulation.
Yeah, and basically turning us into a means of making money for the billionaires through lots of pain, through debt, through working at jobs that are very unfulfilling.
Wage slaves.
The wage slavery that's like on steroids. So I mean, we've been wage slaves for forever. Well, not forever, but since the 19th century. But now we're getting into a situation where we're all going to be gig economy employees, and we're not going to ever see a way of getting out of this situation or getting out of a debt situation. We're going to constantly have to update our education regarding our job. We're going to have to compete with others again, for our job when that job series upgrades and changes focus. So it's going to be really fun, and so we talk also about the possibilities of how to get off the grid. We don't have the answers, but we talk about the idea that we might need to do that.
Can you get my fan?
Yeah, I can do that. So one of the things, so in the videos we have an introduction which talks about multi-state coalitions and just sort of a general thesis. The Great Reset talks about that very thing that came out around the time when we were actually making the video. The World Economic Forum released the Great Reset. We were talking about like AI and artificial intelligence and robot technology and the very things that the Great Reset was talking about. We were actually had a different working title, but then that happened, and we were like, okay, well that's the way it goes. That's what we're going with. Communitarianism, which
it's the philosophy. It's the communitarianism is all about the public shaming. It's like, how dare you not wear a mask because you might kill grandma, and it's because we wear a mask out of respect. That's all shit that was taken from Nazi Germany, and it's taken right out of the playbook. It's not even that
original?
Creative or original. And it's the philosophy around neoliberalism and capitalism and the shaming campaigns and all that are based out of communitarianism. So we did a really good video about that as well.
And then Resilient Cities is a short animation about that topic. Go to that, have a look. Tori Evening Star has come back and made her appearance in that video. And then the one that we just released, Lifelong Learning, that Julie mentioned earlier, is probably our longest and most extensive and intensive, I guess, video about the shit that's going on right now and how we are going to be in schools and in our employment.
Right. So the child abuse and, turning children into slaves and making children believe that they're vectors of a terrible disease in order to, psychologically terrorize them and turn them into slaves for the future, for the digital landscape.
Yeah. And so we have a couple ideas for upcoming videos in this series. So we've kind of, stopped for a little bit, taken a break. We're kind of shifting our focus. The garden outside is just going crazy because it's August. And there's rain and heat, and it's just like
it's all over the place.
And I have to start harvesting beans
and
tomatoes.
It needs tending for sure.
Yeah, it does.
There are a couple more topics that we are going to be bringing up in the future. The first one is multi-state coalitions, which very briefly, multi-state coalitions is basically the occupation of your government by corporations. So when public and private partnerships come together to run your local government, that's called fascism because you don't benefit from that, only the corporations do. But multi-state coalitions are clumps of states within the United States. So we're in Pennsylvania, so we're Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey, Rhode Island, Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Delaware. So that's 7. And they're typically in group clumps of 7.
Right.
And so it goes, do you mind? So it goes global, regional, local.
Right, so it's a regionalization.
It's the regionalization of your government through corporate capture. That's really all it is. And it's basically, you don't have any real rights. There's no federal law in place. The whole federal thing is just for show. It's basically global, regional, and then local. That's the hierarchy of the governing process. So Multi-State Coalition's the video that we're working on right now that we're about ready to launch, hopefully soon, you know, sometime around, you know, now that the elections are coming up and you get all of that theater, we thought that this would be a really good opportunity to see what really goes on, you know.
Yeah. And, you know, I don't know if you want to get into it or not, maybe talk about it next week, but the theater with the election, and somebody raised a point about the aesthetics of the two conventions. So the Democratic convention, lots of, like, you know, muted tones in the clothing, people just kind of like they look like they just got up. You know,
poor video quality.
Yeah, poor video quality.
It basically looked like a dystopian, like they were trying to do like a 1984 or The Story of We, where everyone's just in drab clothing and there's nothing really exciting about it. And the video quality is poor, and everybody looked like they just rolled out of bed, and you know.
And then
versus
the Republican Party convention, which is like all bright and happy and sharp, and the video quality is awesome, and
and everybody's coiffed with perfect makeup and perfect hair and wearing red, and there's the American flags, and the video is amazing. So, you know, you have to pay attention to aesthetics. You have to pay attention to those things because they constantly are signaling out psychological programming to you, you know, for whatever reason. And whatever your receptors receive, if you receive a dystopian, like democratic platform, then that's what you receive, and so that's what you will then send out in your life. You'll wear a mask, you'll be all drab, you know.
The signs and symbols, right?
Yeah, it's all about signs and symbols and simulacrum and all that.
Yeah. So it's
all theater.
And it also feels like the Democrats, you know that, you know, the presidency is not important, right? So they put up the worst possible candidate they could, because they just know that, you know, people are not going to vote for him. So it's almost as if they're just pushing Trump into the presidency because they know that the presidency is no longer going to be viable, especially because of this global governance that's coming along,
which we'll talk about in multi-state coalitions.
Right, exactly. So the regionalization rather than individual states, the wiping out of federal, you know, or of national countries, you know, nationalization, taking that out of the picture altogether, and you know, having regional governments and local governments, and that's what we're seeing a lot also with, like, the rise of power of these mayors, right, in Los Angeles, San Francisco, New York, Chicago, all these cities. They're all Democrats, right? And
they have more power than the governors.
They do, yeah. You know, and so we're seeing this take place. So the localization, the regionalization, and then the globalization of our governance. And so it's pretty insidious if you believe in, you know, government in the first place. So
I mean, you can do whatever you want. We are busy, like, researching and cataloging and archiving, for history's sake, what's really going on. So if you want to pay attention to what's out front and, you know, the theater, and go to the little poll and do your thing and be a part of it, knowing that you're part of the theater, then if that makes you happy and that makes you feel fulfilled and like you're doing your part, then that's great. But for us, we understand that when trillion-dollar corporations take over the government, chances are that's where the rules are coming from. You know?
Right. So, you know, as far as I'm concerned, a no vote, I mean, we're basically advocating don't vote. A no vote is a vote. It's a vote of no confidence.
Yeah, you don't have any confidence in your government. I mean, look where you are. Look where you are. You're basically, you're in living in fascism. You know, your government has been taken over. A coup d'etat took place in March. The central banks, you know, marched in like the mob and took over the governments and took over various, you know, businesses throughout the globe and said, we're taking over. And that kind of transition.
Yeah, I was just going to say that's a good transition to the next topic.
It is.
Yeah, you want to take the lead on that?
I mean, okay, so look, always before in the 20th century, and in the 21st century, obviously, but in the 20th, 21st century, your shopping experience was always about the customer is always right. You always heard this, right? If you worked in retail, you were trained and, you know,
at least in the U.S., right?
Brainwashed, and you know, in the U.S. and you know throughout other countries where they really count on retail in order to keep their economy going. You were always trained to believe that the customer was always right, and the customer had a feeling of like, you know, and of course I'm the customer, I'm the paying customer, I'm paying for something, therefore I'm going to get the best service ever. And so we all kind of grew up with this idea about our shopping experiences. And, you know, we went into this a little bit in the Great Reset about how shopping is going to change.
Right.
Well, shopping also, on a psychological level, is also changing. We tend to go more into the technical side of things, but there's a psychological aspect to this, and also a financial aspect to this, right?
Right, yeah.
So let's use Trader Joe's, for example.
Right.
Trader Joe's is an American corporation.
Yeah.
Okay? So when COVID hit and they decided to, and the central banks came and all of corporation and all of governments were shut down and taken over by the mob, basically you have to picture it this way. The owner, the fat cat owner of Trader Joe's is sitting in his office, maybe he's out on the golf course one day, and he walks in to his office after being out on the golf course all day, and suddenly some dude is sitting there going, I've taken over. I've taken over, and I'm going to force you into taking this loan, and if you don't take this loan, you're going to get shut down. It's like, well, okay, I don't want to do that, so I'll take the loan so I can pay my employees, and I can keep going and pay my rents in my various stores throughout the country. And so now the owner of Trader Joe's no longer really owns Trader Joe's. It's really owned by whoever gave him the loan, the COVID loan, right?
Right.
So.
And so that could have been either from the congressional, like, made up like that multi-trillion-dollar like
CARES Act
or whatever, that pushed a lot of money out to corporations. Right. So again. Or it could have been from the central bank, like you said.
Right. Yeah. Whatever. It's a loan.
It doesn't matter.
And it's the company is no longer his.
Well, we've talked about this before in other bookmarks. So.
Yeah, you know, and I'm surprised more and more people aren't talking about this. You know, especially those people that are like, let's, you know, fight for our civil rights and all this stuff. It's like, well, okay, so part of the deal with taking the loan, part of the deal with actually getting the loan was that you had to sign on the dotted line that said you would agree to violate your customers' civil rights, medical exemptions from wearing a mask, and that you would put all sorts of crazy, you know, slick marketing signs up in your windows that talk about social distancing and COVID and all that craziness and all that stupid, dumb marketing stuff. Okay? So and then you would have to go through like a severe brainwashing of your staff. In order to qualify for the loan, you would have to brainwash your staff into turning your staff into hateful people who hate their customers. So you as the customer are walking along thinking, doop-de-doo, I'm still in my 20th century or 21st century mindset where the customer is always right, and you can be all caring about it. Can I complain to your manager? And all this stuff. All of that is in the past. Right now, they don't need you. They don't need you to continue to function and operate their business. They have their money from the mob, whatever mob it was, whether it was a central bank or a loan company or a local bank, whatever, I don't know. But they don't need you, the customer, anymore. And so now that they don't need you, they are going to treat you like they don't need you. Right. They really don't need you.
Yeah, because they have money.
They already have the money. Right. They don't need your business.
They don't need your business. And that's the way that these places are acting. And so, you know, these stores like, and it's always like, it's the weird thing is there
like
always seem to be like these sort of like these liberal darlings of
Sprouts.
of food and retail food. So yeah, exactly. So Trader Joe's, Sprouts, Whole Foods, and then there's a bunch of co-ops which are around all belong to this one sort of like co-op, you know, like organization. And so the one here in Pittsburgh is right along with that. So I have a feeling that the coalition company or business, whatever, that they all belong to, took that loan money, and so in order to continue as being part of the co-op network, you need to buy into this shit. And they're all like really, really fashy. They will not allow any exceptions or exemptions for health. They will not entertain anything outside of this prescribed thing. And again, because they receive money.
The money,
exactly.
Because of the money.
Exactly. So they
don't need your money.
Exactly, and we've talked about this before, where the loans and the money that was invested in by the government in corporations, and then the central bank giving loans to corporations. It's this, again, it's coming into these public-private partnerships, PPP. Where it's basically we're dealing with fascism, and this is basically Mussolini's definition of fascism, when corporations and government are basically working together, or one and the same almost, and we are seeing that through the money that is being distributed out to the corporations. And the ones that seem to be the most fascist, I would say, are the ones that have taken the most money.
Right. So I'm sure Trader Joe's got a big chunk of the pie.
Yeah.
I'm sure Sprouts got a big chunk. So what we're looking at is you have to, first of all, as the consumer and as the shopper, you have to understand that I'm not saying that you're worthless. I'm not telling you that you don't mean anything, and I'm not saying that you're wrong, but I'm telling you that that's what they're telling you. So you of course that you're a valuable human being, and that you're you're a wonderful person and all that, and that you're right, and that you do have rights, okay?
Yeah.
All of that. But corporations don't think that way. If you've never worked for a big corporation, then you wouldn't know you wouldn't understand what you're feeling right now.
Yeah, exactly. And they come out and say, we are not a democracy. When you work for a corporation, they're like, we don't have to listen to you.
Right.
We're not a democracy. This is not a democracy. And so, corporations, and this is the thing I never get about, that bugs me the most about liberal democracy is that, capitalism goes hand in hand with liberal democracy, as it does with fascism and monarchy, but especially with liberal democracy. And yet, capitalism and corporations that come out of capitalism don't even care about democracy. It's not even part of their worldview.
Right. It's very authoritarian.
Exactly.
It's basically like parents that tell their kids. It's like parents who beat up their kids every day, and then when their kids complain about it, the parents will respond with, well, you don't have to live here. You can just leave. Well, it's the same thing with your company. With your company, they say, they treat you like shit. You're a wage slave. You don't get paid enough. It's just awful. Wage slavery, $7 an hour in the United States. Come on.
Well, you don't have to work here.
And then their response is, well, you don't have to work here.
Right.
It's all authoritarianism.
Right.
So that's how you are now being treated as a customer. As a customer, basically their response is, well, if you don't bend over like a dog with the fucking collar on your neck and the gag over your mouth and the act like a goddamn slave, we don't need you. We don't need your money. You don't have to shop here. Right. And it's true. They really, truly don't need their money. They have billions of dollars in COVID bucks. Trader Joe's, Whole Foods, Sprouts, all of the grocery chains across the United States, whether it's Safeway or Giant Eagle or Jewel Osco, Walgreens, all of these businesses and establishments that are supposed to be there for the public good, like they're supposed to be considered public accommodations. They don't need your money anymore.
No, they don't. And so the idea that, I've been a customer...
They're done with you.
I've been a customer of Trader Joe's for probably 30, probably more like almost 40 years ago. Almost 40 years I've been a customer of Trader Joe's. Longer than a lot of these pimple-faced managers have been managers. But that doesn't matter anymore.
It doesn't
matter. Because that's a 20th century mode of thinking.
Right.
You have to let
I've
that go.
been shopping here for 20 years and I've always been treated with such respect, and my grandmother and my auntie and blah, blah, blah. Nobody cares.
Yeah,
nobody cares because they have the money. So if they have the money, then you have to figure out how you're going to exist in a society where you are no longer treated like an individual. You're basically just like treated like nothing. No matter what your exemptions are, no matter what your religion, no matter what your medical exemption, no matter what your skin color, it doesn't matter. That's what communitarianism is all about. It's basically about, you know, turning humanity into this idea that it's worthless, so that it can easily transition into slavery, so that it can easily transition into a depopulated society.
Right. And you know, the community and communitarianism is not you, me, and our neighbor. It's corporations. It's the third sector, which are like nonprofits and NGOs. And it's, you know, and government, and so it's all these things working together. That's the community. We're not the community, right? So go to see that video and find out more. But a couple other things that I wanted to mention is, you know, some of the others. There are some stores out there that are not as harsh, and I'm thinking of, like, you know, Walmart and Aldi.
That's true.
And there's another one out there that's just kind of like they're really Family Dollar.
Yeah.
You know, like they make,
just like,
you know, Family Dollar makes so much fucking money. You know, and they exist in poor communities. They don't really need
opportunity zones.
Opportunity zones. That's another thing that's part of the multi-state coalition that we'll go into. But you know, they probably, if they did take the money, they didn't take so much of it. So they're, you know...
And Walmart doesn't need to take a loan.
No, they're one of the richest corporations in the world.
Right. They were already extracting from the human...
Right.
Human...
Yeah, they're not saints. We're not lifting them up by any means.
Wealthy
right.
Because of their, you know, horrific practices.
Yeah.
They didn't need to take the COVID loan, okay? Which means that they don't need you to, like... It's not... There's nothing in it for them for you to wear the mask. You see, the thing with taking the COVID loan is that they had, all of those corporations that took the COVID loan, like Trader Joe's, they had to follow certain criteria. And the criteria was, you must violate all of your customers' civil rights. Okay? And they had to sign on the dotted line. And the violation of the civil rights equals wearing a mask, social distancing, treating your customers like shit. No more of this nonsense of the customer's always right.
Right.
At least we got rid of that bullshit.
Right.
You know, the customer now either does what we say, because we're authoritarians who have all the money now, does what we say, or they can just get the fuck out. Because it's worth it to them, because that was the criteria for the COVID loan. Walmart doesn't have to put... There's nothing in it for Walmart. It's like, well, what's in it for us, for our customers to wear a mask? There's nothing in it for us. We didn't take the COVID loan, so our customers can come in with a mask if they want, or they can come in without one if they want.
Right.
Who cares?
Because they did change their policy, because for a while they were going with that.
Right. They were like, oh, okay, whatever.
But now, yeah, so, I mean, not that, you know, they will still ask you if if you have a mask if you walk in, but if you say you have a health exemption, they are not fascist about it. We're like these other stores that just like flat out refuse and will not talk to you about it.
So, for instance, in the state of Pennsylvania, there is a health directive that is literally entitled Health Order by the Department of Health Face Coverings Order, or something like that. It has the word face coverings in it. And in section 3 of that order, it says those who have a medical exemption are excluded from wearing a mask. But all of the local stores that are in our area here in Pennsylvania are cherry picking which part of that order they want to follow. Right. So they'll follow, you know, first sections 1 and 2, but then they'll completely ignore section 3. Mm-hmm. So there's that, and you
can't even argue with them about that.
And that section, or that mandate, or that face covering order or health order or whatever it is, isn't even an order. It's not even a law. It's just a suggestion. It's just a guideline. Right. It's not even a law. But there are laws that do exist. So apparently Trader Joe's in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania thinks that they have more power than Title 18, which basically is the protection of your deprivation of rights. Okay, so they think that they have more power than Title 18, which actually is law. And they think they have more power than the Pennsylvania constitutional protections, which says that every individual, every human being, no matter their race, their religion, their disability, they all have the right to public accommodation. And that is a law. That's actually a law. But apparently Trader Joe's in Pennsylvania thinks that they're above the law because they got their loan.
Right.
They got the COVID bucks.
So going along with this, I'm sorry.
So, it's all about the money.
It's all about the money, which is my next point. And that is that the money has also been distributed to the states. Okay, so we were saying, how the states are taking a back seat and then becoming coalitions, but the governors and the mayors, have been lifted up in their power. So Pennsylvania is like one of the worst states actually for this kind of shit. And what has happened is the states that are the most fashy, like California, New York, Pennsylvania, there's probably a couple other ones. Generally, Michigan. These are Democrat-run states, So the governors are Democrat, the mayors are Democrat. You had a little argument and tussle going on in Georgia where the governor was Republican and the mayor of Atlanta was Democrat, and they were going back and forth, and there were issues going on. The state of Georgia was actually going to sue the city of Atlanta because of this kind of shit. So and now they're working out their differences, but whatever. The point that I'm trying to make is this all comes down to the money that has been accepted from the federal government into these local governments or these state governments in order to push the COVID narrative. Now, what is going on is this, everyone's like all paranoid about getting tested or this is part of it, right? Basically what's going on is the money is going into marketing. Okay, that's, I guess, my point is that the signs that you see all over the place.
It's marketing.
It's all marketing, right? Pittsburgh is like covered with signs. San Francisco, from the reports we've heard, there's signs everywhere. Right. And London Breed, the mayor of San Francisco, is probably one of the biggest fascists around, and she has been really hardcore on the citizens of San Francisco, who for the most part are like just going right along with it. And it's almost like living in 1984 where there's signs everywhere, and they might as well say Big Brother is watching, or Victory Gin, or whatever the fuck that was in that book, right?
Right.
And it's all about masking, it's all about social distancing, it's all the stuff that you've been hearing about. Well, it's just like on steroids there.
That's why we did a live reading of 1984.
Yeah, at the beginning of all this.
The very first day.
Right. And so, but, and we see it in Pittsburgh too, these signs, and the buses say, like, be a hero, wear a mask, and all this shit. And you see the signs everywhere. And so basically the money has gone into marketing, and it has also gone into these, like the COVID emergency centers that were all put up, but like nobody went to. Well, okay, so that fits in with what we talked about in lifelong learning and in communitarianism, where money is invested through various investment products and devices, I guess they call them. I forget what they call them. So like bonds, okay, so like these emergency bonds, social investment bonds, social impact bonds, and things like that. COVID bonds exist. They were created so that people could invest in them. The money gets paid back by the governments to those investors, but in the meantime there's also money that goes out to vendors and companies that provide the service providers to deliver the masks and the tents and the things like that for those COVID emergency centers. But I think that a lot of money went into the whole mask thing, and that's why there's all this push, because they need to show that return on investment, that money that was invested on the masks were delivered, and that people are complying with the whole mask rule, so that it justifies the investments that were made in the first place.
Right. And
okay?
So that's
all about the money.
That's the way it's going to be, like, with everything. So it's kind of complicated, but it's not if you've ever like balanced a budget, you know, or if you've ever like said, okay, well, I need more funding for next year's, if you're working in retail or something, and I need more funding for next year's product, and with inflation and everything, so you work your current budget in order to justify getting more funding next time around.
Right, exactly,
it's all just.
And so in business and in government, that's always the way it has
numbers.
been. It's like, and you've heard stories about, like the military spending,
$25,000 on a pen.
Or a toilet seat or something. Yeah,
Right.
exactly. So, and that's basically justifying budgets that were, and budget, it's like, well, we didn't spend as much this year, but we won't get more money if we show that we didn't spend that money. So we got to show that we spent that money and then some in order to get more money next year. So
to go back to what you're experiencing now as a consumer in this country, when you go out, we all have said this and we all have felt this, that there's a shift in the paradigm. It used to be that when you would go out your door and you would, if you lived in a city where there's lots of commerce and lots of things available, maybe you'd wander into a coffee shop and you'd grab a coffee and you'd walk along and maybe go into a cute little store while you're sipping your coffee, and you would do something called browsing and shopping, and it would be kind of like a pleasant experience.
Mm-hmm.
You would meet new people, somebody would say, oh, did you try this? Or, oh, you look nice today, or whatever, Now it's like get in, get out, and it's just like this really tense, unhappy experience. It's it's part of the misery industrial complex, that I like to call. It's very anti-life.
Right.
These experiences.
It's anti-life.
So the things that you used to have before COVID were kind of pro-life, meaning that it was pro-experiences, like getting together with people and at a coffee shop or shopping together or even just going and seeing a movie together. It was the togetherness. Everything now is anti-life. It's anti-togetherness. And it's because in the eyes of the people who've given all of these businesses that are still in operation, like Whole Foods and Trader Joe's, in the eyes of the people who have funded them, you are not a life form to be respected. You are not an individual with rights. You are not a unique person at all. In fact, they don't even need you to spend any money.
Right.
They don't. They think. Well, you need my, ice cream more than I need your money. That's
Right.
the way they think of it. They're like, they think of you as kind of this, this weight on society, this consumer that is a weight on society, and so they're programming you psychologically to think poorly of yourself and to think badly of yourself. And so what you're doing, because you want to feel good about yourself, is you're complying and you're wearing the mask and you're picking up on the jargon and you're shaming your friends and your neighbors for not following along because you want to feel good about yourself. So this is a very insidious tactic. It's a very anti-life tactic. So what you need to do is try to hold on to the life and hold on to feeling good about yourself while you have to dive in and deal with this bullshit.
Right.
Yeah,
and let's face it, this is social conditioning.
You're being socially conditioned.
You're being, and the social conditioning is going on for the people who work at these stores as well. They are being trained to be good robots.
Right.
Right. And robots
don't care about people.
They don't care about people. They don't have, they don't care about they just do the work. Right. They don't argue. They just do the work. And, in the future, everything is going to be replaced by robots running on artificial intelligence software.
Right.
Now, what I'd like to do is direct you back to the Great Reset video, because we do talk about this very thing. We talk about how shopping is being eliminated, mostly because it's a way of saving money for corporations, right? It's a way of taking out a chunk that costs a lot of money because, if you have a store, you have overhead. If you have employees, you have overhead, okay? If you can take that big chunk, which is a big, big chunk, from producing to selling, then you have saved a shit ton of money and you're still making it from your customers.
Right.
What's going to happen in the future is basically based on what we've been doing on social media and what we do by buying things online or whatever it is. And, it fits in with the Internet of Things, okay, which we also talk about in that video. It comes down to they will be able to predict what you want before you need it. or what you need before you need it, right? Based on, you know, Internet of Things devices like your refrigerator, which knows when the milk is going bad, or whatever the case may be, and they will send it to you, and they are going to bank on the fact that you will not send it back. You'll just accept it. You'll say, well, I didn't really need it, but sure, I'll just buy it. I'll just pay for it, and that's it. And so they'll take that, and so what they're trying to do is make the shopping experience the most unpleasant experience out there.
And it is.
And it is.
It really is.
It's working. It really is working, and it's all going to go away because they don't want it anymore. It's not about you being a good customer. It's not about you spending your money there for 40 years. It doesn't matter anymore. What matters is making money.
Right.
Period.
And the best way to do that is to take a society that is already so traumatized. So the United States is founded on trauma. We're basically a trauma-based civilization.
We were a military, fiscal military state.
Yeah. So we're a very traumatized society, and we're also undiagnosed trauma. A lot of us don't believe in doing shadow work or going to therapy or anything like that. So we're walking around a bunch of trauma victims, and we have asshole parents that treat us like shit because they were trauma victims as well. So we're this traumatized society, and the best way to control a trauma-based society is to be authoritarian and to shame them through all of these marketing campaigns and masking them up and everything. So, you know, I think that the best way, and the reason we're so trauma-based and everything is because we're new. We're a new country. Like, we're really new. We're still kind of like in our toddler years. We're only what, a few hundred years old? Like,
not even. We're like 240 years old.
We're very new. We're a very new country, and we're still kind of like dealing with, you know, our really dysfunctional founders who were basically white landowning slaveholders,
right?
You know, who basically wrote the Constitution, which was penned, by the way, right here in Pennsylvania. So it's kind of weird to me that Pennsylvania isn't more like get out and fight the tyranny, but whatever.
Right. Well, the U.S. is not going out and fighting the tyranny,
I know. Well,
despite our history.
Exactly. So what we need to do is we need to look at other countries that are much older than us and see how they're responding to the tyranny. And I think that we can see some good examples of that.
Yeah, there's some things going on right now.
Right.
Uruguayos como la barriga.
Massive.
Please social distance. We need to clear the front area here, please, so we can assist us. Please, push back a little bit.
So we're seeing videos, those clips that we just showed you. They are protests that are going on not just in Europe, but also there was South Korea, Spain, where they were taking over the freeway there, and Ireland also came out this last weekend. So Germany came out what, a week or two ago, and now these other countries are coming out. Ireland was massive. They did have a protest before, but it wasn't as big as this one, and so it was good to see. Next weekend, on the 29th, I think it is,
August 29th.
London and Trafalgar Square is having its Unite for Freedom protest.
Right.
And so we're finding that you know England is doing these things, but the other English spin-offs, let's say, you know, Canada, United States, Australia, New Zealand, they're not doing that. You know, they're not doing that at all.
Well,
and it's really sad.
I kind of feel like New Zealand is like, if San Francisco was a country, it would be New Zealand.
Yeah, that's true.
You know,
yeah,
New
you're
Zealand.
right. Yeah.
Like everybody there is probably really privileged and has money, and they're treating like the tyranny like an extended vacation. You know.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I know. And then Australia is, you know, well, we've talked
Australia's Australia.
Yeah, we've talked about them, you know, through humor, you know, something we showed in a couple episodes back. But so what I don't get is, you know, people, you know, you see people with American flags on their masks. Or they're wearing, you know...
Literally, like, something over your face to obstruct your breathing, to keep you from speaking. You can't communicate. And it's a fucking American flag.
Right.
It's
or
like,
you'll see somebody with a t-shirt that says, Freedom, USA, and they're wearing a mask. And or whatever the case may be. It's something like
cognitive
really
dissonance.
Super patriotic. And it's like... So the narrative is that, you know, this is the land of the free, the home of the brave. And like, you know, we fought for our independence and freedom. And, you know, we showed them, you know, who we are, and we're a special country, and, you know, it's a manifest destiny, and all this bullshit. Because, you know, that's another false narrative that's going around. I mean, if you really look at it, you know, we were founded, like I said a moment ago, as a fiscal military state, meaning that we were founded as a state that makes its money from war, okay? And, you know, the way that soldiers and military personnel have been treated over the years, you know, there may be a VA, but they've always had shitty, you know, health care. They've always been treated like crap.
They're really treated badly here.
You know, unless
really
you get up into the, you know, the upper echelons of the, you know, of the military.
And then you just go into politics.
Yeah, then you go into politics. But that is actually politics. That's why they're able to survive those you know, that you know, going up in rank, right? But if you're just at the rank and file and you just, you know, go to war, you know, you're going to come back fucked up, and you're going to get some treatment, but barely, you know. And so, but, you know, again, but that's all the propaganda around, you know, lifting up the military and our salute to the military, and you know, this whole clapping for doctors and clapping for the essential workers. This has been going on for a long time with military personnel, right? From, you know, companies or airlines or whatever. Like, you know, you'd be on an airline and it's like, let's now thank our military personnel on board
for
blah blah blah
going
blah.
in and like destroying and taking over, you know, yet another brown country.
You know, like, I'm not disparaging these people who have done this, right? The military personnel. I'm actually saying you guys have been fucked over.
Yeah, that's true.
And you don't even know it. You know, and so, you know, and so that's what I'm getting at. This has always been about, like Julie has said, you know, this is about trauma against the people of the United States who are basically here to serve that fiscal military state.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And, you know, and the other thing about the founders that Julie mentioned was, you know, 12 presidents out of, like, I don't know, what are we up to? 43, 46? I forget what we're up to now. 12
40 something.
Owned slaves.
45, I think.
Yeah. And so 12 of them have owned slaves. And, you know, you know, capitalism was hand in hand with the United States as it was born and grew up. The first industrial revolution happened not long after the founding of the United States. And the whole idea of, you know, the country, capitalism, and we talk about this in our new video, Lifelong Learning. Capitalism was built with slave labor. The fact that capitalism has become so predominant came about because of slave labor. And we go into this. Go to the video and watch it. I don't need to belabor the point. But this is also part of our shared trauma in the United States, you know, through fabricated racism at the very beginning of the founding of this country to keep poor people apart, then slavery to build. Even the fucking White House was built with slave labor. Okay. That's just the way it is.
I mean, we're just a really
and so our country is not the country you think it is.
No.
All the propaganda, all the fake history, all the narratives that have been out there about like George Washington, who was basically the equivalent of Donald Trump. He was a real estate man. He
was a land surveyor.
Right? Or that's the story, that he was a land surveyor. No, that was a skill that he used in order to take Indian land that was, deeded to them by the English, to block it off and subdivide it and sell it to investors.
Well,
and that's how he made his money. That's how he bought his commission into the English army, which then turned him into the general that he was for the the American army,
and then
the Continental Army.
And also he was just like really out of touch. So like these poor, non-landowning men were out fighting for freedom or whatever.
Yeah, but they were convinced to go fight for
on
freedom.
behalf of the rich dudes, right, that had all the land.
Right.
And so then they were like, okay, we won for you, all you rich dudes, we won for you. Can we please get our commissions now? Can we please get paid? And Washington was like, what are you talking about? Like, he was so disconnected from, like, I don't want to say, like, the working class, because it was, like, below the working class,
there was no,
the peasant class.
He did not want pensions. He refused pensions for the veterans of the war.
Why would I pay you for doing my bidding and winning this war, and you have, like, no arms and, no way to feed your family?
Right, exactly,
that's how we were founded.
Right.
Just like,
exactly. And
it's really stupid, actually.
Right.
I don't think he was very bright. I actually don't think he was that bright.
Good at business. He's like the governor.
Was he though?
The governor of California is also not very smart, but he's really good at business, and he has a very good political sense.
Plus his aunt.
Well, but he's related to these people, but he also has a very good political sense. I've noticed that about him. He's an asshole. He's good at business, but he's not very smart. Washington was astute at business. He was also astute at politics, because he was able to find his way into money when he didn't necessarily have it to in the first place. So he was good at business. He was good at politics. He was good at managing relationships. Okay, but he was a motherfucker. I'm just gonna say that.
Yeah, and kind of dumb.
So. Anyway, what we're trying to say is, why isn't the United States standing up? I mean, we're all like rah rah freedom, all and all this crap.
And yet, mask.
Especially, I'm calling the fucking conservatives out now. Okay, the conservatives are the worst. Why? Because they're the ones that are screaming the most about liberty and personal freedoms, right? But they're the last ones to break the rules. They're the last ones to go out and take a stand. Now, okay, I will give it to them. They have had some protests, here and there. It's very spotty, and they get just like reamed by the media for doing it.
Of course.
Okay, because then they're called fascists or Nazi. There's Nazi flags out there. There's no Nazi flags out there. There's yellow snake flags, but there's not Nazi flags.
That's so funny.
Right. So. But not I'm not talking about the so-called patriots. I'm talking about the normal conservatives out there who are yelling and screaming the most, but aren't doing anything about it. So you guys need to step the fuck up if you want anything.
Right.
Stop talking about personal freedoms until you do what you see in these videos we just showed you.
Right.
Okay? Now the liberals, fuck you.
Yeah, whatever.
Fuck you, because you're the ones that are pushing the mask. And liberals are always the first to let the fascists in.
Oh yeah, the liberal class and the privileged class are going to be the reason that we're all going to be on a slave grid, or that we're all on the slave grid right now.
Yeah,
in fact, we know some of them who are busy working the algorithms right now. We know them.
To keep us under surveillance.
To keep us under surveillance.
Yeah.
Like, San Francisco is the brainchild behind this whole thing. People think it's a virus from China. It's actually San Francisco.
Yeah, well, San Francisco is the virus.
Yeah, exactly. San Francisco is the virus. So if you're going to wear a mask, okay, and you're going to be kind of a punk about it, then you may as well use it to your advantage. Dress in black, wear a mask, and go steal some shit from Trader Joe's and Whole Foods.
Right.
At least fill your cupboards, because after how many months now? 5, 6 months?
We're getting into our 6th month.
It's bullshit.
Yeah.
It's done. I mean, you've got to be done. And it's like, now you don't have that same, they don't think of you in the same way that they did in the 20th and early 21st century. You don't matter. It doesn't matter if you shop there. It doesn't matter to them if you spend money.
Right.
Your money makes no difference to them. They will always be in business. They are there to learn automation, and one of the best ways to learn automation is to treat the customers like garbage.
Right.
Because robots don't care if you have an exemption.
Right.
Robots don't care if you have individual rights and freedoms.
Right. And you know, they don't want you there anymore.
And they don't care.
You're costing
They don't
them
care.
money. You're actually costing them money by going to their store.
Exactly.
What they want is you to stay home, and they will send you your shit.
Right. So if you do go, you may as well just bring a big bag and steal a bunch of shit. Like, that's really the best way to give it back to them.
I guess, you know.
I mean,
the other thing too that that they actually told
I
us,
wouldn't.
You know,
I would never do that.
Yeah, you would never do that. But the thing that they actually told me was that I can just bring a list, give it to them, and they'll fill the bags up and charge me the money, and away we go. So the best way to handle that is that, okay, robot, here's my list, robot. Go
Right.
do what I fucking want.
Right.
Go get what I want and bring it back to me.
Right.
In fact, you know what's better? And this is the curbside shopping thing, which we were both kind of like really like
Oh,
icky. It's really icky.
telling
right?
people, oh, I'm sorry, you person in a wheelchair that may die from wearing a mask. You can just go to the curb.
Right.
Ugh,
Yeah.
That's so awful.
And it is.
That's
It is
just
awful.
so
But
awful.
there's a way of turning that around and saying, okay, robot, I'm going to send you my list. Now you go bring it to me. Okay, so now we can turn this around and say, these are the Waitrons, these are the robots.
Mm-hmm.
They're the ones that have said, okay, I'll do that. I'm essential. Okay, this is why there's the whole thing with these. I'm sounding really reactionary here, and
Whatever.
I'm sorry, but
you're never reactionary, so you get
but
a pass today.
you know
okay?
what really pissed me off is
We're not
is all
reactionary.
is all the essential talk, and making people who are not, it's like jobs that aren't really essential, but they're saying they're essential. They're the people who bring up the baskets at the grocery store. I was at Trader Joe's the other day, and I saw pictures that were taped on the window from little kids that are saying, "Thank you for helping us live," and all this like bullshit. Fucking.
Meanwhile, those children are being.
It's
fucked
propaganda.
over.
It's so Oh my god. Yeah.
So badly.
Go to lifelong learning and see what's going to happen to our children. It's not good. It's not pretty.
No future.
There's no future. The Sex Pistols sang about it, but they had no idea what they were talking about.
In chains.
Yeah.
Digital chains.
Digital chains. Not blockchain. Blockchain.
Digital chains.
Right.
You'll see. You'll see when your 8-year-old is still wetting the bed, and you're like, "Why?
What
is
the
he
hell
not,
is going on?"
What the fuck is
Okay,
going
so
on?
all right, so we need to wrap this up.
You're basically fucked.
So
you have to just let it go.
Yeah.
You're not important to them anymore. The authoritarian fascist people that work at Whole Foods and Trader Joe's and whatever other Sprouts and whatever store you go to, you basically just have to treat them like a robot.
Yeah.
Whereas
there's other businesses out
you
there.
can take a baseball bat. No.
There's other job series, other jobs out there that have been deemed unessential, but they actually kind of are essential. So it's really messed up, and so all the cheering and like lifting up of the one over the other is also part of this whole changing of what's going on. These people that are working in the grocery stores are not going to have jobs in the next 5 years.
No,
they're just not.
No,
and so they're being treated really nicely, even though they're being trained as robots.
They're getting a taste of power too. And like somebody else recently said, do you think that they're going to get a taste of power and go, "Oh, that was nice. Okay, but never mind. I'll just go back to being a nice person following civil law and following federal law and constitutional protections." Oh, hell no. Once you get a taste of power, it's like, a drug and you
Yeah.
become addicted.
Yeah, so
And
I
you
don't know.
can't wait to fuck people over.
I don't know what these people are going to do in the future, but you know
cares?
they're not going to have jobs. Yeah.
cares?
So
Line them up against the wall.
Along the lines of what we've been talking about, you know, and this is the last thing I want to mention is that we feel like there may be another lockdown coming.
Oh yeah.
You know, based on what we're seeing in Australia, this autumn, probably late autumn, we're probably going to see another lockdown.
Yeah.
You know, and our governor Wolf, the state of Pennsylvania's governor, not our governor, has been talking
You're
about
currently
money.
without state.
Yeah,
We just live here.
You know, he's talking about more money coming into the state. So that tells me that there's going to be more draconian measures that are coming their way, because it's like with the money comes the, you know, the actions.
With the money.
The money.
The money.
Yeah. We just saw a video by Thought Slime, and he was using that.
Now it's always saying the
right.
money.
Yeah, so that was pretty funny. Okay, any last thoughts about anything going on?
No, I think that people just really need to understand that, you know, you are a viable, vibrant human being full of life and love, and you need to remember that about yourself. That's who you are, you know that. But the people who you think that you need, who you don't really need, the people who sell you your groceries or whatever, they don't think of you that way. You are no longer that great customer that keeps their business going. Truly, they do not need you. They don't need your money. They don't need your business. They don't need you at all. So they are going to treat you as if they don't need you. So just
keep that in mind.
Keep that in mind.
It doesn't matter how long you've been shopping there.
And it doesn't matter constitutional protections, civil rights, your state's rights, your medical exemptions, your religious exemptions. None of that matters in the corporate sector. In the corporate sector, the answer is, if you don't like it, you can leave. Mm-hmm. That's their only answer, which is very authoritarian and very fascist. And so you need to be able to kind of be robotic yourself. So, like I said, either put on a mask and go steal a bunch of stuff and don't worry about it, or just avoid it altogether, like I do.
Yeah.
I just don't want to be around that anymore.
Yeah, I don't either. Well, okay, so find your own workarounds.
Yeah.
You know, and whatever's comfortable for you, you have to find that workaround.
Yeah, and even if
there's nothing we can tell you that is good for you. You have to figure it out for yourself, what your workaround is, or what you are willing to put up with for, you know, a jar of almond butter.
Sure, and you know, there are some people that are totally fine with the mask. They love the mask. They actually think that they have the power of God to keep people from getting something like the common cold.
Right.
They actually love it. They embrace it. Just remember that you are also, their opinion of you is the same as their opinion of, say, the person who is exempt from wearing a mask.
Right.
You know, their opinion of you is exactly the same because they're a corporation and they really don't care. They don't care about your money either. It's not that, you know...
It's nothing personal.
It's nothing
It's
personal.
just
They just don't like you and they don't need you, whether you wear a mask or not.
Right.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Corporations
it's just that
are
when you don't wear a
corporations.
mask, they get to treat you even more like shit.
It gives them an excuse to show you a taste of what's to come in the future.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So...
Okay.
Robots don't care.
Robots don't care, and in human form, they're real assholes.
Yeah, but whatever.
Yeah, okay. But I've been called an asshole too. So,
Just go steal from them. That's all you do. You're just like, oh, you
There
want
you
to
go.
treat me like an asshole? Yoink. There's a bag of gummy bears right in my pocket. I would never do that.
No, I wouldn't either. I would never steal a box of wine.
I would never steal a box of wine.
All right, well, let's roll the music. Thanks.
Thanks for joining.
Bye.
Book of Hours is determined to remain an essential platform that offers a creative interpretation for lockdown skeptics and experts who have been censored by mainstream press. Thanks to your donations, we can carry on doing this essential work as working artists. These big issues of the day are vital and need to be heard. So please share our videos, subscribe to our YouTube channel, make a one-time donation on our PayPal page, but most importantly, please be a part of our team on our Patreon page. Go to patreon.com/bookofhours and hit the blue button titled Become a Patron. Thank you.